Hello beautiful, my name is Anastasia Hounnou and today we have a special episode. We invited the beautiful Rachel from the Part-Time Homemaker. She is a fellow YouTuber here and I'm so excited for you guys to hear from her, hear her story, and we are going to be talking about a lot of topics on wifehood. So with that being said, if you like this content, then definitely subscribe to the channel. I post a lot about my journey as a wife and things I'm learning throughout the way. So if you're interested in that, then subscribe. Like I said, we're on our journey to the first 1,000 subscribers and we're almost halfway there. So thank you so much to all my subscribers. I also wanted to share that if you are a fellow YouTuber who talks about marriage, Christianity, femininity, or topics like that, I'd love to collaborate on a video and ask you questions about your journey as well. All you have to do is email me through the description below and we can talk. Rachel also posted a video today on her YouTube channel where she asked me questions and it was an awesome conversation. So definitely go over to her YouTube channel. You can find her through the tag on the title and definitely subscribe to her channel as well because she has amazing content for wives and Christian women. With that being said, let's jump right into the content. Well, hello everyone. I am so excited for this video today. We have an amazing guest here, Rachel from the Part-Time Homemaker. I'm so excited. She's all the way from the UK. I'm over here in Texas. So I found Rachel about like 2 months ago when I saw her YouTube channel. I just loved her content because it really resonated with a lot of things that I talk about, and I'll have her talk about that in a second. But I'm just so excited for you guys to meet her virtually, and I'm going to ask her some questions. So Rachel, if you could just please introduce yourself, talk about your YouTube channel and things of the sort.
Thank you very much. So hi everyone, I'm Rachel and I have a YouTube channel called The Part-Time Homemaker, also the same handle on Instagram, and I started in September of 2022, so not too long ago at all. But I created it because I work full-time and I only really accepted or embraced my homemaking duties around April of 2022, so not too long ago, and I was just essentially struggling trying to balance working full-time, homemaking, being a wife, everything. And I didn't really see any other working homemakers on the internet sharing their journeys. So at first I didn't really identify with the homemaking label. And then I started to identify with it and thought, you know what, let me come online and start sharing my experience because it is really, really hard. So that's why I've created it. And that's mainly what I talk about, trying to balance everything.
I absolutely love that. When I saw your title, I thought that was so awesome because that was a perfect way to put it, as a part-time homemaker. I think most of the time you see on YouTube, it's mostly just like women that are full-time homemakers, and it doesn't talk about how like us, which I am a part-time homemaker as well. It doesn't talk about women like us, you know, who are working a job and figuring out how to still keep a home while also working, you know? So I loved that.
Yeah, and I don't think we are actually part-time homemakers. I
Right.
just titled it just to, I guess, so that people can see the handle. I think we're all homemakers in our own rights. It's just different varieties.
Yeah.
Of course, we can't achieve the same thing in, you know, the same amount of hours. We don't have
Right.
as many hours. So that's it. We're not part-time homemakers. We're all homemakers. It's just that we have different, I guess, limitations that are on our time.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. Seriously. Let's see here. So, how long have you and your husband been married and how did you guys meet?
Yeah, it's coming up to 2 years, so not too long at all.
Okay.
We met online,
Okay.
which I always like feel embarrassed about saying, but we met online prior to the online dating scene, so it was many, many years ago. But yeah, we met, it was about 16 years ago, so a
Wow.
very, very long time ago. And we've just been together ever since, really. There are many reasons why we didn't get married prior to that, but we finally did it in COVID. And yeah, it's been more or less great since then.
That's awesome. I love that. And don't be embarrassed about the online thing. You know, a lot of great couples meet each other online. I think it's a great way to meet people that you would have never met if you haven't met them online. So I love that.
I agree.
So, yeah. So, what do you do for work and how does this affect your work as a homemaker?
Oh, so I work in human resources.
Mm,
So I work as a HR manager.
mm.
I don't enjoy my job. It's really stressful. I've always worked in HR. So that's all I know, and that's why I haven't really pivoted to something else. But yeah, it's very busy, demanding. It pays well, but it takes a lot out of you. And I guess how I balance it with my homemaking duties. Luckily for me, I've always worked at companies where we've had hybrid working. So, you don't have to be in the office.
Yeah.
And right now I go into the office maybe twice a month. So working from home has made it not super easy, but it's made it easier for sure to get some homemaking duties in during the day or weekends, etc. So that really, really helps me. But I tend to do most of my homemaking in terms of like physical tasks on the weekend. Homemaking is much more than just cleaning and cooking and stuff. But I do more of the physical tasks on the weekend, or I try and squeeze it in during lunch breaks or after work. But yeah, I think working from home is massive for me. It just helps tremendously. And I think you also work from home as well, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's the best way for, to keep a home. I used to have multiple jobs, and it was just so stressful when you're working outside the home and then you're on your feet all day. And then when you come home, it's so exhausting. And my house was always a mess doing that. So I think working from home is like the best thing for a woman who wants to keep the home and things of the sort. So I was wondering if you could expound. Sorry, my mic is kind of dropping. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about what you mean by homemaking is not just cooking and cleaning. Can you talk on that for a moment?
Yeah, sure. It encompasses everything really. It's about, yes, it is about the cooking, the cleaning, but it's also about creating an environment in your home that, that builds to a Christian living and lifestyle. So it's about, how we talk to our husbands. I don't have kids yet, but, kids, how we talk to our kids, yeah, just the environment that we're creating, how we're building the people up in our home as well. The example that we try and be to our husbands, not every husband is a Christian or maybe on the same spiritual path as we are. So it's about being that example if they're not on the same journey. Yeah, there's so many different things. Even it may not just be to our immediate family. Some homemakers still live with their parents.
Yeah.
And it's about being respectful to your parents or being a good sibling. So there's just various things to it. I don't think there's even an exhaustive list, to be honest. But it definitely is more than cooking or cleaning because anyone can do that.
I love that. That's so good. I feel like that's not really talked about, the environment part, like how to make like there's a lot more to just homemaking. I do talk about that sometimes, where it's like having a peaceful atmosphere is so important. And there's so many women and so many marriages, where there people cook and clean, but the environment is just not peaceful or it's just not there. So I love that. Thank you so much for explaining that. That's amazing. So as a working woman, when did you decide you really wanted to take homemaking serious in your marriage, and what made you want to be a homemaker? I'd love for you to explain like your whole process there.
Oh, you've made me remember. You know what? I was working from home in my office at my desk, and I was just a bit distracted. So I was looking out the window, and I happened to be looking like downwards into my neighbour's garden. And at that point in time, my neighbour, she was a stay-at-home mum. So it was summertime. She was always in her garden with her daughter, and I'd hear them like laughing and giggling. I find it a bit annoying, but I just used to look at her and think like, gosh, she's at home every single day with her toddler, being able to enjoy life. And at that particular time, I was really stressed in my job. So I felt like I was so stressed out and she was having a great time. And like, why couldn't I have that? So that's what started making me think like, okay, I want what she has. And I was already starting to come across some homemaking videos on YouTube,
Yeah.
mainly mainly Bindi Mark's video. I think on her channel was probably the first channel it wasn't the first, but it definitely was the first channel that kicked me up the butt, kind of, and made me think, okay, even if you're not a full-time homemaker, you need to do something. Because I feel like I was a pretty rubbish wife in my first year of marriage, being honest. I was disrespectful, I was lazy.
That's so big.
And yeah, I needed a kick up the ass. Sorry.
You're
so,
good.
so she so she was really like, just turn things around and just take your wifehood and your biblical duty seriously. And that's
I
what
love
got
that.
me into it. But I think definitely the defining moment was seeing my neighbor with her daughter and just like seeming to enjoy life. And I wasn't feeling that way at all.
Wow, I love that. That is so good. I think sometimes it takes like one little moment for you to realize, man, this is insane. That happened to me too. This is why I loved your stories, because it was the same with me, where I was just like disrespectful, and I realized that that was like putting a hurt on my marriage, and then I wasn't taking care of my home at all. And that came along with also having extremely stressful jobs, but at the same time, I just was kind of lazy at home. And it took like me talking to my mentor, it took a moment and something just clicked for me. And I realized, like, this was when I was working at a bank, and I was like, I have to go part-time, like right away. I need to go part-time at my
Right.
bank. And then I ended up quitting because we moved across the country like 3 weeks later. But now I work, yeah. So now I work from home, but I love that. I think it just takes a moment for you to realize, you know what, I'm not being a biblical wife, and it's amazing that you had that realization, because I feel like that saves marriages when you actually
It
like,
does.
yeah,
It does. And I feel like I didn't learn any of this from my mum, family, church.
yeah,
So, a lot of us are not even taught about this. And then we go
yeah,
into marriage and we're kind of like thrown to the wolves.
yeah,
So it's great that a lot of us now are starting to talk about our homemaking lives and all of its shapes and varieties.
yeah,
And yeah, I think it just helps us realize what we need to start doing if we are on this Christian journey. And I wasn't I called myself a Christian for a long time, but I wasn't truly on the Christian path for a long time. So I
mm.
think I started taking my faith seriously, and then I naturally came across homemaking, etc.
I love that. That's so similar to me as well. I think growing up, I did see my mom cook and clean. Like, my mom was definitely a homemaker, but I never really thought of it like that. And I kind of went on the more feminist route, where I didn't really call myself a feminist, but I was always just like, there's no way I'm gonna cook and clean for a man. I'm gonna make my own money, la di da do, And it's like I always had that like pride of like, I need to make my own money. And you're so right. We don't talk about it in church as much as we talk about a lot of other things. We don't talk about like the roles of a man and a woman in a marriage, really. And maybe they do in like marriage counseling, or maybe they do in like marriage conferences and stuff. But I mean, you don't go to those when you're 12 and 15 and you're learning, a
No,
lot of different
and the
things.
ones that I attended, they didn't even talk about it. And I think I've made a video
Really?
about this actually, because
Okay.
churches, it's so difficult. They want people to attend, isn't it? They don't want to drive people away. And
Ah,
they exist, their whole money existence is dependent on people continuing to attend. So they don't
yeah.
want to drive their membership away. But at the same time, it's like, are you feeding the sheep? But then again, we can't completely rely on churches, can we? We do need to have
Yeah.
our own relationship with Christ and actually open our Bibles. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah, you're so right. It's controversial. Like, maybe I don't know if you have gotten negative comments already, but it's so interesting on YouTube, where it's super controversial when you talk about marriage roles, and a lot of times even in the Christian community, it's controversial to talk about what our women and men are supposed to do, or whatever it might be. And you're so right. It's like churches want to keep their numbers, which is why they don't talk about a lot of controversial things sometimes. And I wish I would have learned this sooner. Like, I would have saved a lot of like headaches, a lot of arguments probably, if I would have learned a lot of these things about like respecting my husband and just being a good wife.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that. That's so true. I was gonna say something else, but I completely forgot. Oh yeah. I was gonna say that you're so right about reading the Bible for yourself. It wasn't until this year, or I mean last year, where I really delved deep into the Bible, and I realized, oh my goodness, it's all here. Once you actually like read the Bible for yourself, it talks about Proverbs 31. I read that over and over and over again, because it just really talks to you about how to be a good wife. Same with like First Timothy, I think, and a lot of different things where you really realize, wow, I wasn't being a good person in general, like a good wife. And yeah, I love that. Um,
Mhm.
let's see here. So how do you make time for home duties while working at a full-time job? You kind of talked about that, but do you have like some type of schedule, or how do you make it work for yourself?
Yeah, I definitely have a schedule. It's not written down, but in my
Mhm.
mind, I definitely have a mental schedule because I like routine and structure, and possibly a lot of working women like routine and structure because that's a huge part of our jobs. So
Yeah.
I know, on a Wednesday, I know what I'm doing in the kitchen, as in like sweeping, for example. If I miss it on a Wednesday, then I don't even try and do it a day later. I just like it, I've missed it, it's done. But I have that kind of structure of knowing what I'm going to do when, and that does help me.
Mhm.
Um, Also being really open, YouTube has helped me because another reason I started my channel was to just kickstart me into this homemaking thing. So I was like, you know what, if there are other ladies who are filming themselves, cleaning their bathrooms or hoovering, I'm going to do it too, and that's going to
Yeah.
help be more consistent, and it has, which is great. But yeah, I just try and create a mental routine for myself. Very recently I'm trying to do not as much on the Sabbath, not that I'm perfect at observing the Sabbath yet, but I am trying to just create days of what happens when.
Hmm.
And that's what helps me. So I just be realistic and say Monday to Friday, mostly nothing's going to happen because I'm either working or I'm tired, or yeah, it's just not going to happen. But it's mainly
Hmm.
my weekends, mainly Sundays. I do most of the cleaning. Um, Cooking, I always do that anyway. I actually enjoy cooking, which is
Yeah.
nice. So I just know what I'm doing when. That really helps me. I can't. Yeah, it's just not going to happen if I don't have a structure or a schedule, really.
Yeah, I love that. I love how you explained it because it's so different for every woman. And that's so good that you found something that worked for you. Like you said, during the week, you're kind of exhausted, like you're not going to get as much done, but on the weekend, you have that time. So it's great that you kind of made your own schedule. I feel like for me, when I first started watching a whole bunch of videos on YouTube about homemaking and things of the sort, I kind of wanted it to look like other women's homes and then maybe follow other women's schedules, but I realized like I can't do that. I have to do it on my own schedule. And I love how you said that like making the YouTube channel has helped you, because same here. It's like I can't talk about this and not do it. Like I have to. I would
Exactly.
feel
And
like a
if you're
fraud.
naturally lazy, right, it's going to be a struggle. So, yeah, do
Yeah.
whatever it requires to make yourself consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so good. I love that. Okay, so my other question is, how do you maintain biblical femininity at home while being in a work environment that can bring out more masculine traits?
That's very interesting, actually, especially because I don't work in a male-dominated industry. HR
Okay.
is notorious for like old middle-aged ladies. It's not like that actually, but
Okay.
I don't work amongst a lot of men.
Okay.
But in order to not get to where I am in my career, because it's all subjective seniority and stuff, but I have had to try and be a bit masculine in how I behave at work in order just to reach the position that I am.
Mm.
Um, but I definitely try and switch that off when I'm at home. When I'm with
Hmm.
my husband, I am like this, yes, but I try and tone it down a bit.
Yeah.
I try and let him speak,
Mm.
maintain eye contact. At work, it's good to butt in at work sometimes and voice your opinion, but maybe not as much when you're with your husband.
Yeah.
So I just try and I've internally thought about what does femininity mean to me, because it doesn't mean the same thing for everyone. Like what I'm saying now, you watch maybe like, oh, hang on a minute, that's totally unnecessary. But it's different. But I think, okay, what does it mean to me? And then I try and do that with my husband. Again, I don't have kids, so it's just myself and him. But
Okay.
whatever it looks like to me, that's what I try and do with him. And I see how he responds to it. So it's getting that feedback. He's also given me verbal feedback as well. Like, I've been way too rude in the past. Yeah, so
Mhm.
many stuff that I've done wrong, and he's it's great. He's told me, and I've molded and adapted to that as well. And also, of course, reading the Bible. Now that I actually read my Bible, I'm able to see what it instructs us to do, like in terms of being meek, mild, humble,
Yeah.
um, quiet spirit. So you're not gonna be perfect. I don't remember to do this all the time, but when I do, it's about doing it, and that's what I try and do. So work, you can be however you want to be, but at home it's about just remembering to be different with your husband. So that's what I try and do. It's not overly complicated, but it's just, yeah, what works for me.
I love that. And I love how you emphasize what works for you, because it does look different for a lot of people. And you're so right when it comes to work. Sometimes you have to have that more masculine tone. Like when I was a manager, I always had to be more like direct and everything like that. But when it comes to
Yeah.
my husband, sometimes I had that same tone and it was just not good at all.
That's a
And
recipe for disaster.
right. So
Yeah.
yeah, like now that I am like embracing the fruits of the spirit, talking about gentleness and self-control and things like that, and how you said being meek and things of the sort, you wouldn't like when I first really started looking into this, I was like, there's no way I'm gonna have to be meek and humble, whatever. Like, but now it's like that's actually so beautiful. It's just like kind of reminds me of like a little flower. Like it's just really gorgeous. And to me, I love that. And yeah, I think it's so amazing to have that different attitude with your husband, because it brings out more loving characteristics of your husband. And I think that's so amazing. It talks about in the Bible about being like love and respect and how it kind of goes together. And
Mhm.
I love that. Um, I did want to ask you another question. Throughout this journey of homemaking, do you have any mentors that you look to, or are you kind of just like going with it on your own right now and figuring it out as you go?
Yeah, I don't have any mentors. And I think I currently don't go to church.
Okay.
Main reason is every time I go, I'll fall asleep, which is not ideal. So I need to sort that problem out. And I think when
Yeah.
I go back to church, I will find, or God willing, depends on what his will is, but I hope to find a mentor there. But right now I'm using like all of us, our community on the internet, because I think there's so much to learn from one another. But yeah, no mentors, just reading the Bible and also just trying to ask God to show me what I need to do within
Mm.
my own marriage. So yeah, that's what I'm doing at the moment.
I love that. It's great. And it's amazing that you learned all these things on your own. And I think the emphasis on the people that are watching this, like reading the Bible is just the best way to really grow, I feel like. For me, I am always just reading the Bible, reading the scriptures. Like I
Mhm.
sometimes read Proverbs 31 again and again because I think it's just so good to have that reminder of like someone to look up to, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, I absolutely love that. And I love how you keep on saying what works for me in my marriage, because I think it's so easy to look at other people's life on social media. They make it so glamorized and look perfect, but it's so amazing that you're saying for what works for me, because it's like what works for everyone. So that's
Mhm.
so good. And then I have one last question for you. Do you have any advice for people who are getting, for people who have just gotten married or are unhappy that they're not like full-time homemakers right now? Do you have any advice for women?
It's a good question. For those who have just got married, what comes to mind is even if you haven't had a good example in your parents' home of what a homemaker looks like, don't allow that to limit you as to what you think you can achieve within your own marriage, because none of our parents were perfect. But
Yeah.
and even not all of us grew up with in a two-parent household. But even just the few things that you did see, I'm sure it did teach you like good things and not so good things, the bad things. So, if even if you haven't grown up seeing what a homemaker looks like, don't allow that to limit you or make you think like, oh, I'm not going to be able to be a homemaker, because God can do so much more than we can think or imagine. And he
Yeah.
can take the little that we have and turn it into something much more great for his glory. So I just try and use what I saw in my parents' home as a guide as to, okay, some of the good things I can do and some of the bad things that I should avoid. And
Mm.
I'm not allowing that to limit myself or to, yeah, I'm just using it as a learning platform essentially. So that's what I would advise for those of you who have just got married. There's so much that we can learn from our own experiences. And then what was the second part of your question again?
My second part was for women that might be working right now and who are unhappy that they're not a full-time homemaker yet. Maybe some advice for those women.
Yeah, that's a great question. And honestly, I battle with it every single day because again, I don't enjoy my job. But I have to work at the moment. That's why I work. It's a necessity. So what I try and tell my is in all seasons, just try and identify the joy.
Mm.
One thing that you can hang on to that day just to make yourself feel a little bit better. Try and hang on to it because it is so easy to allow ourselves to feel really down because of work, whether it's a stressful manager or just so many deadlines or the commute you have to do. There's so many reasons why we can feel down if we allowed ourselves to, but we need to try and think, meditate on the positive things and also, just try and grab onto whatever is positive because we are supposed to meditate on positive things and stuff and
Yeah.
just try and use that to get yourself through each and every day. And I'm not good at this, but I try and focus on just the day or the week that I'm in because thinking about, the next 9 months still having to work, that's a bit too much to bear. So just take one day and 1 week at a time. And try and also pray about it as well. I need to pray about my journey more as well, giving my hopes to God that, God, you've given me this desire, so I'm going to trust that you will fulfill it. We need to pray about it constantly to keep our spirits optimistic. So try and set a time in your week that you do pray specifically about this, not just about your kids, your husband, but specifically about this dream to become a full-time homemaker and put it in God's hands. That's what I say. And that's what I try to do as well.
Wow, that is such a good answer. I love that. It's so good because it's so easy to, like how you said, get wrapped up in everything going on months from now or whatever it might be. But it's great to have that every single day, finding the joys. That's so good. Well, I have absolutely loved having you on this, Zoom call.
Yeah.
It's been great
Whatever this is.
yeah, it's been great to talk with you. I really hope that you guys learned a lot from this video, and you guys can definitely check out Rachel's channel, The Part-Time Homemaker. You will love her content. I'll be tagging her stuff down below. But other than that, do you have any parting things to say? Nothing else?
Probably, just keep surrounding yourself virtually, in this homemaking community because it does help you keep positive as well.
Yeah.
And we learn so much from one another as well. So
Yeah.
not that you should spend all your time watching homemaking videos because obviously you find for everything else, but make time for it. It is actually part of our faith journey. So that's what I would say as a parting gift.
Yeah, I love that. I've learned so much from you and other women. It's been amazing. So I totally agree with that. But other than that, you guys, I hope you guys love this video. And thank you for coming on again, Rachel. And I will see you guys next time.